Here is your latest storm update on Tropical Cyclone Mal as it barrels towards Fiji at this time. A significant storm threat to the islands, and we have woken to a system far stronger than we anticipated with the forecast. This is a significant storm threat, and it will be coming ashore Fiji in about 24 hours' time from now. Whether they get a direct hit or not, it's a little bit uncertain, but significant cyclone conditions are expected on Fiji as this system wraps up and will likely impact the island as a Category 3 strength storm. So you can see on the satellite imagery right now, the storm looking pretty good for a high-end tropical storm equivalent system. It's blowing up some really nice convection over the center. You can see that here. It's really cold convection as well. That's where the inner core is most likely to develop. And even on this 2-hour imagery, you can see some very nice convective banding features rotating into the storm at this time, with some lovely outflow towards the south. That's indicative of some high shear conditions that are south of Fiji. Unfortunately, the high wind shear is not north of Fiji, so this storm has the potential to strengthen right up to landfall. Storm with winds of 60 knots at this time, a pressure of 990 millibars, and it is wrapping itself up quite nicely on its final approach to Fiji. If we take a look at the visible satellite imagery at this time, you can see the inner core of the system probably around here where this little gap in clouds is. The significant convection really starting to blow up now over the center of the storm, and the outer bands of this system, as you can see down here, now starting to push ashore on the outer islands of Fiji. Make sure you stick around for the whole update, because we're going to be going over every scenario that this storm could take, and also the likely impacts that Mal is likely to bring ashore for Fiji and the surrounding islands. So if we take a look at the current weather radar right now, you can see rain is starting to approach Fiji at this time. There's some pretty heavy thunderstorm showers through here as this storm moves towards Fiji. They've been getting these on and off showers sort of all day at this point for the past 24 hours. And again, they are starting to move ashore at this time. The storm center about here, so we're not going to get a good idea of the storm structure until this storm actually comes ashore or very close to Fiji where the radar is. So a couple of days left for that, or a couple of hours left at least for that. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be interested in the wind forecast from this system. So here's a look at the ECMWF forecast, a 9-kilometer resolution model. You can see red is tropical storm force winds, so gale force winds, and I believe when you start looking at the black winds, that's more than 50 knots in strength on this map. So again, initialized with winds of about 40 knots. That is certainly too low, but again, that's for the resolution and the model lag that we've got, because this system has strengthened faster than everyone has anticipated, including the models. You can see the GFS as well, a little bit behind. I believe the Access is a little bit more on point with this system, but again, it's a little bit too close to Fiji at initialization. Still winds of 50 knots. So the Access G3 model is probably the one that is most likely to sort of reciprocate the actual storm's intensity as it moves towards Fiji. So again, peak winds of about 50, 55, maybe even 60 knots as this storm approaches Fiji. The official forecast has winds of up to 75 knots from the JTWC. That is a significant storm coming ashore. Again, the eye of the system just offshore, which will bring the worst conditions through here. The northeastern side of the storm will be the brunt of the system, and the bit with the eye just being slightly offshore, the worst conditions will be coming ashore around Lautoka and Nadi, that sort of area. These islands here could also get absolutely hammered from this system as it moves ashore. Peak wind gusts from this system probably around 80 to 90 knots, maybe even up to 100 knots in certain places. So again, really significant winds are going to be coming ashore from this system. That isn't the main threat, however. Significant wave heights are the concern right now. Take a look at how big some of these waves are with the storm just moving just offshore from Fiji, up to 8 meters. That's up to 25 feet in height, and I'm sure they get a little bit higher. Yeah, around 25 feet as this storm approaches Fiji. So very significant wave heights indeed. That is a concerning sight to see. And the only saving grace from the ECMWF model is how far the system is offshore. If it was to move a little bit closer, say the eye was to pass through here, then we'll be seeing these significant wave heights brought ashore on these outer islands and onto the Fiji main island as well. Again, significant wave heights of about 4 meters. That's up to 12, maybe even 15 feet in places as this storm moves through. So swell heights and wave heights are a very significant threat indeed, that's for sure. And just while I'm talking about the ocean, sea surface temperature is looking really good for the system as well. 27, 28 degrees Celsius. It's about 28, 29 degrees Celsius where the storm is right now. So it's going to have ample time and fuel to intensify right up towards landfall. 24 hours under these conditions, the storm can potentially do a lot with that. Let's take a look at rainfall. A significant rain event is likely to unfold on Fiji. Not catastrophic. We're not looking at up to sort of 500 millimetres of rain, but we could definitely be seeing somewhere in the ballpark of 250 millimetres of rain. That's up to 10 inches. And these thunderstorms start to come ashore now on the outer islands, and their conditions will only deteriorate from about here on out. And by the end of today and into early tomorrow morning, they're really going to be quite rough for Fiji. The significant amount of rainfall is going to be on the southern side of the system, so if the storm's eye, wherever south of the storm's eye or southeast of the storm's eye, that's probably going to get the worst of the rainfall. Again, it doesn't look like any land areas are going to get a direct hit from that. The worst rainfall is probably going to be isolated towards the extreme western part of Fiji and maybe some of these islands down here. However, I don't think we're going to get a massive rain scenario unfolding here. That's not to say we could see hardly any rainfall from this system. Again, 50 millimetres falling in an hour or two is no joke. That could cause some significant flash flooding. But if the storm does get itself right onto Fiji, again, these extreme western parts could cop up to 100 millimetres, maybe even 150 millimetres in places. And the mountainous terrain on Fiji could cop up to 200 millimetres of rain. That's up to 8 inches. And again, because of the storm's fast forward motion, we will likely be seeing the majority of this rainfall falling very, very quickly in just a couple of hours or so. So again, significant flash flooding is possible from this system. Let's jump back to satellite imagery right now. You can see the the infrared satellite imagery. Some significant convection already starting to blow ashore on Fiji. It's going to be a cloudy day and conditions are only going to deteriorate from about here on out. These red and blacks are where the isolated significant thunderstorms are. Through here, they're a little bit more widespread. And then as you move up here, this is where the storm's core itself is. It's looking pretty mean, that is for sure. It's a lot stronger than what I expected it to be, and it looks like it's going to come ashore as a pretty significant system, that's for sure. So this is a Tropical Tidbits here. We've just been looking at windy.com, but here's a look at Tropical Tidbits in the official JTWC forecast cone. You can see the system expected to intensify with pace, not rapid intensification, but it will intensify with some haste as it approaches Fiji, peaking with winds of 75 knots as it passes towards the west of Nadi and the main island of Fiji. So yeah, looking like it could be a pretty significant storm threat, that's for sure. And you can see just through here, the eastern side of the system will be where the brunt of the winds are. Because of the forward motion of the system, that's only going to increase the speed of the winds relative to the land, so peak winds could approach 75, maybe even 80 knots on the Fiji main island. Significant waves expected to be around 30 feet in height, that's 10 metres. Like I said, storm surge and significant wave heights are a very significant threat from this system, that's for sure. Peak wind gusts as well will also be quite a threat for the extreme western parts of Fiji and exposed coastal areas, with peak wind gusts of about 90 to 95 knots expected from this system. Again, it looks like Fiji is going to be the only area impacted. It doesn't look like any of the other islands are going to be impacted. Tonga kind of escapes the storm, and also everywhere else kind of escapes the storm. That's not to say, though, some pretty significant waves could blow ashore on Vanuatu today and into tomorrow, and the same with Tonga and New Caledonia, and maybe even the North Island of New Zealand could see some pretty significant wave heights. So rip currents will also be a problem. So swimming on the in exposed coastal locations might not be a good idea in this part of the world for the next couple of days. Just wait for the waves to die down. That's probably the safest thing to do. But anyway, that is the latest information that Force 13 Australia has on Tropical Cyclone Mal, or 02P. It is a significant storm threat for Fiji, not one to be taken lightly. Make sure you're rushing your preparations to completion throughout today. They should be done by tonight, because conditions will only deteriorate from there. Make sure you subscribe, check out the main channel and our Discord server as well. That's the latest from us, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.